Conor Corcoran. Conor Corcoran is a second-year OBGYN resident at SAAOG in Charleston, West Virginia. His research interests predominantly include novel surgical techniques in gynecologic oncology. He intends to pursue gynecologic oncology fellowship following the completion of his residency. The title of his paper is B-Notes, a pilot study and residency training program. Dr. Corcoran. And then we're going to keep all of them up here for questions if you have one on the diabetic talk as well as his.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. So I'll be talking about B-Notes, residency training program. My disclosures, I have no financial disclosures, however my principal investigators do have disclosures. They're member of staff for applied medical. Learning objectives, the idea here is that we're going to introduce physicians to V-Notes, demonstrating the utility of V-Notes in a residency training program, and increasing vaginal surgery experience for resident physicians. So this is a quick outline of what we'll be covering, going from the definition, the background, technique, study, and references of our paper. So the question that's been burning in all of your minds, what is V-Notes? It's vaginal natural orifice transluminal endoscopic surgery. And what this entails is utilizing natural orifice, in our case, the vagina, in order to access the peritoneum. Other fields have done this and with good success, and we'll talk about that in the background and the history of this surgical technique. So it was first done in 2004 in our colleagues in gastroenterology. It was first utilized using EGD, doing transgastric peritoneoscopy, so they could visualize and eventually biopsy peritoneal masses from the stomach, because the idea was that the properties of the stomach would allow it to heal quickly, which made for improved outcomes. They would typically do it at ironically, the fundus of the stomach to do this. In 2015, so about 10 years later, it was applied to gynecology, to our realm, by Dr. Bakenland in Belgium. And what he did was, concurrent with vaginal hysterectomy, he would perform this V-Notes procedure, which we're going to go over the technique of how we did that. And the utility of this is predominantly for adnexal surgery, which is the focus of our paper and our concept here. It's been done multiple times through internationally in the world, predominantly in Taiwan. They've done a lot of isolated adnexal surgery, leaving the uterus in situ by doing getting into the peritoneum posteriorly through the posterior fornix. There's been recent expansion through the U.S., notably in OBG, was recently published by Baylor, and Arkansas has been also doing some work on this field. But we still need modifications in this rapidly expanding field for new minimally invasive surgery. And the concept is that we have to produce more data and more studies need to be done in order to standardize how we approach this new surgical technique and how we investigate this thoroughly. So just to give you an idea of what notes looks like in terms of the literature, this is a nice way done by Dr. Arterino, looking at the international publication of notes procedures worldwide. This is not just vaginal notes, this is all notes procedures. We can see that it's really exploded in the recent history, and this is its initial usage in GI. So the majority of notes procedures have been done in the field of gastroenterology and general surgery, but we're catching up. We've gone on to this. So let's go over technique. So the thing we have to preface this with is in our study, we did a vaginal hysterectomy, which hopefully everyone here knows how to do. I won't belabor that point. And we would apply single-site retractor into the peritoneum. So the idea is you would put this side into the peritoneum, and you would make it taut by rolling the top ring, which you'll see here applied. You roll this top ring over and over to get this plastic piece taut. This gives you excellent access to the peritoneum. You see some peritoneal fat or enteric fat right here, and through this application. What you then do is apply the gel port, which is a single site port, to the site. This allows you to have laparoscopic access, visualization, and manipulation of your surgical site. So we have a clip here. I don't know how to play it. I don't know if you guys can help me out. But you'll see the insertion. I just want to show everybody what the insertion looks like So whenever you go in with the instruments already here, what you can see, and clearly what you can tell, is that you have very good visualization of the adnexa, and we have excellent visualization of the peritoneal cavity itself, which is really handy. Go to the next slide. Here we go. So when we play this video, we'll be able to see the completion of a USO in this specific situation by completing the dissection of the ovary off the IP. You can see that allows really good visualization to look for hemostasis, allows you to look around the cavity, and is very handy. And so this, I'm sure everyone's going to be able to see this faster than I can even point it out. You can see the ureter reticulating right here, which is a huge portion of why this is useful in adnexal surgery. You're able to see much better than you would otherwise, which is the key utility of this modality. Then after all this is said and done, you've done your adnexal surgery, you then remove the retractor, which is pretty easy to do. You kind of just reach in and grab it, or if you want to, you can make it on top by unrolling it. Then you do cup closure in the usual fashion. So I know what everyone's thinking. Why don't you just use the endoloop? He's used it for many years successfully. But I think I have some footage of Dr. Bush here coming up. Last time he let a resident use an endoloop. This was live, I recorded this myself. So anyway, so it's really useful because you can see the adnexa in a better picture quality. And that's kind of the hallmark of why we're doing this and why it's important. And why is it important? Well, look at ACOG. They put in a bunch of committee opinions about vaginal hysterectomy and how vaginal hysterectomy is the approach of choice when it's feasible. And it goes to show that it's been going down in recent years. We have some graphs that demonstrate that. And the other piece of this pie is that salpingectomy success during vaginal hysterectomy is as low as 65%. So up to a third of all vaginal hysterectomies aren't having their salpinx removed at the time of vaginal hysterectomy. Well, why do we care about that? Well, there's recent data coming out from ACOG Committee Opinion 744, which discusses that the decrease in epithelial cancer risk by removing the fallopian tube, specifically the fimbrium, is as high as 65%. So the idea is we can decrease epithelial ovarian cancers while maintaining our skills doing vaginal hysterectomy. And this is really critical because as a resident, this is highly important that we develop sort of vaginal surgical skills which separate us from general surgeons. It is also important that we have that passed down to us from the experience that you all have, and we can keep passing the skill down through the generations. And if you want to get an idea of how much vaginal hysterectomies are going down, you can kind of see right here outlined in red. It's down even in this particular review of hysterectomies, it's even below abdominal hysterectomies, which isn't ideal. Obviously, robotics is becoming ever increasingly popular, and laparoscopic surgery is popular. And there are individuals who are not candidates for vaginal hysterectomy, but with the temptation of adnexal surgery, just to do an LAVH, this is a good alternative to improve our vaginal skills. So what did we do in our study? This is a pretty straightforward study. This is a pilot study. So what we did was we reviewed all VNOTS cases, which we started in 2018. And the only catch to this was in the manual chart review that there was a resident involved in the case. So that there was resident surgical involvement, presumably to demonstrate that residents can do this procedure safely. We are going to do a manual chart review of the first 25 cases. My preliminary data here is not complete. We have much to do on this topic, but we do over 17 cases of this. The idea is that we're going to use this as a basis for our IRB to extrapolate this data further for non-inferiority studies. I would like to use a Calvin-Dindo classification system on this to kind of elaborate further on the safety and efficacy of VNOTS as opposed to other modalities. But here's a quick look at what we've got so far. This is a manual review of 17 cases. And the idea is that this is always adnexal surgery at the time of hysterectomy. This is a manual chart review with the only requirement in the same time period being that residents were involved. I randomly selected this from past resident case logs. And we can see here that in all of our different measures, it's pretty similar. Doing the readmission rate was similar, the conversion rate was 1, but that's not necessarily a failure, that's just a more appropriate modality. And our complication, the one with the TLH. We can see that the EBL is pretty reasonable. Now, I know that's fraught with bias because this is based on the operative reports. So this is an official weighed EBL, but this is a good preliminary look onto as a unified system of looking into blood loss. And it did take a little bit longer, but that's to be expected with a novel and new surgical technique. So, in conclusion, what our goal here is to look at V-nodes as a viable alternative for adnexal surgery at the time of vaginal hysterectomy to truly perform minimally invasive surgery, while simultaneously improving resident education to allow us to get the vaginal surgical skills that are so vital to our practice as gynecologists. And that's kind of the whole beauty of it all. And more research is required, so we are encouraging people to attempt or consider this modality in a case which is appropriate for a vaginal case otherwise, to do adnexal surgery when it was otherwise be difficult to do. These are my references, and I would like to thank Dr. Bush Sr., Dr. DuPont, and Dr. Bush II for their mentorship in this project. I'd also like to thank the SAAOG for having me here and giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.